And at the end of the job, our goal is they become our lifelong friends.
So we both talked about what that looked like and what he was looking for in his life and what I was looking for, and we formed Carroll and Strong.
Yeah, I actually grew up in Santa Clara, Silicon Valley, before it was what it is today. Both my parents were fine arts majors, and that's really kind of how I get my start. So all of us, we all drew, we all painted, and I like building. So I was building tree houses as a kid, and then in high school, my dad and I built an actual art studio in our backyard, and to a summer job. And that summer job was building one of the first Apple headquarters in Cupertino. Steve Jobs walking through the site and such, and that was really interesting because number one, technology was right there. He was cutting edge with building practices, and so anyway, I was just a laborer there and was learning the trades during the summer, and I just didn't leave. I loved the dust, I loved the building aspect, and I knew that was my calling. So anyway, I started out in the commercial world, and from there, after 20 years of actually being in the commercial world, I worked myself into superintendent position. Finished carpentry was my forte, and then went into management. Became a project manager for a Fortune 500 company that built all over the planet, and I mean literally, they're a huge firm. And I was young, had young kids, and I thought, holy criminy, you know, I'm taking a lot of time away from my family here by spending all this time away, and ended up working for a small firm, actually quite a large firm in a small pond here in Santa Cruz, and they were building commercial buildings and such. And we had a client that walked in the door one day and said, look, I want you to build our house. And we looked at that client and said, we're not house builders, we're commercial builders. We build marine labs and all these other things. And they said, well, can you give us some advice? We're building this house, and it's more of a commercial project than it is a house. We opened it up, and sure enough, it was about a 9,000 plus square foot home up in the San Lucia Preserve. We all looked at it and said, we're house builders.
Southern California, and moved here in 1981, and just moved up as a carpenter, and was also trying to get on the fire department. So there was more opportunity here to do that. LA, fire departments are very organized, and here there was a lot of volunteers and stuff, so it was an opportunity, I thought, but it just wasn't meant to be. Once I got here, I was working for other contractors, and the truth in the matter is, the guys I work for, I said, just, you know, these guys aren't all that sharp. I can do what they're doing, and so I did. So I went out and got my license and started that, still thinking I would end up on the fire department at some point. But after a while, decided that construction was what I was doing and I enjoyed doing, so I stayed with it. Then I had a framing company for quite a while. That's all we did, foundation and framing. And in doing that, did a lot of projects where the general contractor was just a paper guy, and everybody came to me with the questions because I was the framer and I was putting it all together. So I started doing general contracting. So that's how how my path went from where I was to general contracting. And then I did that for a while, quite a few years. And actually I was getting ready to make a decision on retiring, getting out of the business, or expanding, and that's when I met Randy. And Randy had a different background than I came from. I came from, you know, hands-on, figured it out on my own. Randy came from a corporate structure of construction, and all the principles that I wanted to do, I didn't have time to do, Randy was already doing them. So when we met in Mexico on a missions trip, we got talking about what we were each doing, and we were working in the same area, and I listened to what he was doing. He was kind of listening to what I was doing. And after about a year, I think it was about a year and a half, we started talking about, let's do something different. Let's do what we do. Let's make it look a little different, and let's see what we can do. And so we both talked about what that looked like and what he was looking for in his life and what I was looking for, and we formed Carroll and Strong. We're one of the top 2 or 3 on the peninsula that does what we do, and that's been something we've tried really hard to represent and to do, and I think we've had that reputation now, and we're building on that at this point. My favorite part's coming out of the ground. I like when we start the project. I like having the raw piece of land, set it up, figure out how we're going to do it, stage it all up, get the whole game plan put together. Most unique, we did a set of cantilevered glass stairs. They were pretty cool. The owner, was an attorney for Apple, and he saw this set of glass stairs at the new Apple building, and that's what he wanted in his house. And so going from the main floor up to this loft is a set of glass treads that just stick out of the wall, and then there's a landing, and then they continue the rest of the way up. And those stairs, to make all that come together, that was a lot to do.
Fast forward a little bit, I had been running a nonprofit in Mexico for at that time, I'd say about 20 years. And we'd take people from all over the United States, go down to Mexico and build these little houses, getting people off the streets. Well, on one of these trips, I met this guy who was a builder, team player, great guy, had a good heart, and he was also a builder in Carmel. And we got to hanging out together, and we had breakfast every week, and next thing you know, we're friends. And one day he calls me as I'm driving to Carmel and says, "Hey, you know, we should be doing this thing together." And I said, "Doing what thing?" And he said, "Building houses." and I said, "Well, yeah, okay, what do you got in mind?" And he says, "Well, look, man, I'm trying to do this all by myself, and you've got these systems down, and it'd be really great. You're out building these big houses. I'm in Carmel by the Sea. You know, I'd like to be a part of that. A partnership we can do." So shortly thereafter, I wrote up a business plan. We talked through it, and Carroll and Strong Builders was established in November 2006. So we started our partnership, and we had nothing on the books, zero. I mean, we didn't even bid it. We had nothing. And so for 6 months of nothing, my wife is looking at me like, "What are you doing?" I said, "Look, just trust me. This is going to be great." And so one of the processes that we do is before we break ground, we have a pre-construction luncheon. And so we invite the owners, the architect, the consultants, the structural engineers, and all the subcontractors, and anybody. If a building inspector would show up, we have them there too. And we take them to a very nice restaurant. We all sit in a beautiful room. In another case in point, we have one client, when we had our pre-construction luncheon, this is during 2009, I think it was, and you know, the economy is tanking, and she called me up and she says, "Hey Randy, I want to build a house." I said, "Okay, we just built you a house." She says, "Yeah, well, I want to do another one. I need something to do." I said, "You need something to do, okay. Not a good time." She says, "I know it's not good timing, but I want to do it." And I said, what are your plans?" She says, "What I'd like to do is I want to build a spec house and sell it." Okay, do you realize we're in a financial crisis here? I'm not sure if I want to do this. She says, "No, you're gonna do it. And I'm gonna call this architect out of Colorado, friends of ours, friends of mine, and I want to do it because right now you need the work. Everybody needs the work. The subs need to work. This is the ultimate stimulus package, and I want to be a part of that, and I want to help my friends." I'm like, "Okay." So we put the package together, got a number to fit everybody, and we're at the pre-construction luncheon. And Bill, I can't say the names, but her and her husband are there, and we're with all the subs. And I said, okay, now it's time for the owners to speak. And she got up, and all of a sudden her eyes are watered up, and she just gets up and says, I just want you to know I'm doing this for you. You know, I know it's hard out there, and I want to be a part of a solution. And I'll tell you what, there wasn't a dry eye in the house. And during that whole process, she was just lovely to work with, and she was excited about the process. It was just fantastic. It's like a marriage.
Always different. So you adjust.
Our goal is to make their job easier.
Construction is constantly changing. It's never the same.
But it's the people that are important